They built their fence 10 feet onto my land, so I built a barn right up against it. I've owned my farm for nearly 20 years. It isn't fancy, but it's mine. 40 acres of open pasture, a weathered red barn, and a herd of cattle that keeps the lights on. It's honest land, honest work. My neighbors, the Caldwells, moved in about 2 years ago. Retired city people with deep pockets and very little common sense. They bought the property beside mine, tore down the old farmhouse, and replaced it with a modern country showpiece. Glass walls, a swimming pool, and perfectly trimmed lawns that looked completely out of place in this part of Texas. At first, things were friendly enough. They asked where to buy feed. I lent them a tractor once or twice. We exchanged polite conversation across the fence. But it didn't take long before they started treating my land like it belonged to them. Their dogs chased my cattle. Their grandkids rode ATVs straight through my pasture. I warned them politely. Then I warned them firmly. They smiled, nodded, and kept doing it anyway. The final straw came one morning when I walked the fence line and saw something new. A freshly built cedar fence stretching straight across part of my pasture. Tall, polished, expensive looking, fancy panels and metal posts. The problem was simple. It wasn't on the property line. It sat a full 10 feet inside my boundary. I pulled out my survey maps to be sure. No confusion, no gray area. They had built their fence on my land. That evening, I knocked on their door and showed them the survey. I told them there had been a mistake and the fence would need to be moved. Mrs. Caldwell crossed her arms, smirked, and said they'd hired professionals. She said it was probably fine. Then she added, "Besides, you're not really using that strip of land." I went home and decided patience would make this much more satisfying. The next week, I filed a formal complaint with the county, trespassing and unlawful encroachment. An inspector came out, confirmed the survey, and issued them a notice: move the fence or face fines. They ignored it. So I built something of my own. Right against their brand new fence, I constructed a barn. Not a flimsy shed, a proper livestock barn, with a steel roof and wood siding, running the entire length of the property line. The entrance faced away from their house, but the back wall pressed tight against their precious cedar panels. I stocked it with cattle, morning and night. The smell of hay and livestock drifted straight toward their windows. Within a week, the Caldwells stormed over, furious. They shouted that I couldn't put a barn there. I calmly held up the survey and smiled. On my land, I said, I can build whatever I want. They threatened lawsuits. Too late. I'd already spoken with my lawyer. Not only were they trespassing, but in this county, if someone builds on your land and you let it sit long enough, they can try to claim it later. It's called adverse possession. By building the barn, I locked in my rights and shut down theirs. A month later, the county fined them. The court ordered their fence removed, but by then it was boxed in by my barn. To take it down, they had to dismantle it panel by panel from their side. It cost them thousands. I didn't lift a finger. Now, every morning when I feed my cattle, I tip my hat to that barn. What started as their attempt to steal a strip of my land turned into the most expensive mistake they ever made. If you enjoy stories where greedy neighbors learn the hard way, subscribe and stay tuned.